Occasionally, you need to force reload a Next.js page. And if you're watching this video, you're probably wondering how you do it. So in this video, we're going to be looking at two ways that you can force reload a Next.js page. The first, when you're inside of a component, and the second, when you're not. So if you're ready to learn how to force reload a Next.js page, stick around as we dig into it. So here we are in a Next.js application. What I have done is removed all of the content except from one grid here that we're going to use the grid and then one div in a card style to handle basically a button that we can click to trigger these force reloads. There are two ways to do this. The first way is to use the useRouter hook. The useRouter hook, just like the name kind of gives, is that it allows you to hook into the router functionality. So to do that, we just need to write import useRouter from next/router, and now that gives us access to essentially anything to do with routing. Then what we can do is use this useRouter to make functionality of the things we need to do. So first, let's create const router equals useRouter. So now we're using the hook inside of our component. Now remember, you can only use these hooks inside of components. So in this case, this will work because we are inside essentially a big component that makes a page. So then we can create a function. Let's call it const force reload. And this is going to use the router functionality to do something. So here, inside of our function, we can say router.reload. And this will tell the page that we need to reload this page. So what we can do now is just create a button. So we can change this to click me to reload. And then inside of here is where we'll add a button. So we can say button and this on click handler. So on click is equal to force reload. And we'll just say click me. And if we hit save, now you see that this has appeared. Now, if we click this button, it's very hard to tell that it's actually reloading the page. So now that we have this open, we can see that we have some details here. So let's go ahead and clear everything out and see if anything changes. Now I'm going to zoom in a few times so that you can actually see what's happening. So when I click this button, you can see that the page does reload because it's loading all of this document. So that's the first way to do it. So using useRouter inside of a component, when you click the button, it reloads the page. But what happens if you're not in a component? Maybe you're in a utility class and you still need to reload the page. Well, we can do that too. We just need to access a different part of the router as a whole. So let's go back to our code and take a look at how to do that. So we're back inside our code. I'm going to create a utils folder here and a new file, and we'll call this helper.js. Now this helper.js is going to allow us to also do the same thing. So what we need to do is import router from next.router. So before we were using the useRouter hook, which is essentially a way to hook into all the different things about routers. But what we can't do is use that outside of a component. So in this case, we're in this helper class and maybe, you've got something that you're doing. So for example, export const force reload util is equal to a function. And in this function, we could say lots of processing code. Now let me force reload. So we just do router.reload. And now we can import this into our index. So we can clear out this piece of code and all of this code and say import force reload util from ... utils/helper. Then we can say, hey, instead of using before we use this reload, now we can paste in force reload util, which will allow us to do the same thing. So if I click this button, it's very hard to tell, but I promise something is happening. So let me just quickly open the tools one more time and make sure that it's working the way we expect it. Okay, so we've got it back up here, and if we click this button, you can see that it's also being reloaded. So there's two ways for you to handle different scenarios where you need to force reload a page. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop it a like, make sure to drop it a comment, make sure to subscribe for more content, and we'll be doing more of these short videos as time goes on. I hope you enjoyed it, Until next time, see ya!